begin." The wind howled through the empty house as Nathan sat in the dimly lit study, his knuckles white as he clutched his phone. His wife's text was still open on the screen, the words searing themselves into his mind. "We need to take a pause, Nate. I need to figure things out." For 6 years, Lauren had been his partner, his confidant, the love of his life. Or so he thought. Her message didn't sound like her. It was detached, almost clinical, as if drafted by someone else entirely. He replayed their last conversation in his mind, searching for signs, clues, anything to make sense of the cold distance that had grown between them. But nothing could have prepared him for the storm that was about to descend on his world. Lauren wasn't overwhelmed, and she wasn't searching for clarity. She had already found it, in the arms of her former lover, Eric. Nathan hadn't slept in days. The text from Lauren had set off a chain reaction in his mind, questions colliding with each other, each more agonizing than the last. Sitting in his car outside their suburban home, he clutched his phone, the screenshots from his mother burning a hole in his consciousness. "Check Lauren's social media," his mother had insisted, her voice tight with hesitation. "There's something you need to see." Nathan had laughed it off initially. Lauren wasn't one to flaunt her life online, and he trusted her completely. But when he finally looked, her posts weren't visible to him. Confused, he assumed it was a glitch, until his mother forwarded him what she had seen. The photos hit him like a freight train. Lauren, in Cabo San Lucas, wearing the coral sundress he'd bought her last summer. The location was unmistakable, soft sands, turquoise waves, and beside her, leaning casually into the frame, was Eric. Eric. The name alone churned Nathan's stomach. He was the ex who had haunted their early relationship like a ghost, the one who had cheated on Lauren and then begged for her back. Nathan had trusted that chapter was closed. The captions under the photos were innocuous enough, but they cut deep. Sometimes, you need to revisit the past to find the future. The future? Nathan's vision blurred as rage surged through him. He didn't call her. He didn't demand an explanation. Instead, he sat in his car, staring at the photos until his breathing slowed and a chilling calm settled over him. If Lauren thought she could walk away from this unscathed, she had underestimated him. When Lauren returned a week later, she breezed into the house like nothing had happened. Her suitcase clattered against the hardwood floor, and she hummed to herself as she unpacked a tote filled with souvenirs. "Hey, Nate," she said brightly, not even looking at him. "That break was just what I needed. I feel so much better now." Nathan didn't respond immediately. He watched her from the doorway, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and measured. "I know where you went, and who you were with." Lauren froze, a trinket slipping from her fingers. For a moment, her mask of nonchalance faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Nate, don't do this. I told you I needed space. It's not like I cheated. You went on vacation with your ex." He interrupted, his tone cold. "You hid it from me. Don't insult my intelligence." Lauren's eyes narrowed, and her voice turned defensive. "It wasn't cheating. A pause means the rules are different. I didn't think I needed to explain myself to you." Nathan stared at her, his face impassive. "You don't need to explain yourself. I'm done." The words hit Lauren like a slap. "Done?" she repeated, her voice rising. "You can't be serious. It was just a trip, Nate. You're blowing this out of proportion." Nathan walked past her without another word, leaving her to stew in the silence. The divorce papers were served 3 days later. Lauren's outrage was palpable, but Nathan didn't care. She had already proven who she truly was. Lauren's attempts to paint Nathan as controlling and distant only strengthened his resolve. When she demanded alimony, claiming she had sacrificed her career for their marriage, he knew he had to hit back where it hurt. Nathan began to dig. Lauren had built her career on a facade of integrity and ambition, but he knew she wasn't as untouchable as she seemed. With quiet determination, he pieced together the secrets she thought were safe: misused company resources, questionable expenses, and social media posts that didn't align with the professional image she projected. Then there was Eric. Nathan's investigations revealed a man whose life was as unstable as his morals. Lawsuits, unpaid debts, failed ventures. Eric had left a trail of destruction wherever he went. It wasn't enough to expose them. Nathan wanted them to feel the weight of their decisions, to watch their carefully constructed lives crumble piece by piece. Nathan was no stranger to problem-solving. A skilled strategist in his corporate career, he knew how to approach a challenge with precision and patience. This time, however, the stakes were personal. As he sat in his office, reviewing the financial records he'd painstakingly gathered, he found a grim satisfaction in connecting the dots of Lauren's betrayal. First, he focused on her misuse of their joint finances. Lauren had been quietly funneling money into personal luxuries, designer handbags, spa memberships, and exotic trips, all while claiming their savings were tight. Nathan had meticulously tracked every withdrawal, cross-referenced against dates and receipts. Next, he turned his attention to her professional vulnerabilities. As a senior marketing manager at a luxury brand, Lauren's career relied on an impeccable image. But Nathan had stumbled upon several violations that could threaten her position. Personal expenses logged as business costs, client gifts conveniently unreported, and suspicious gaps in her official budget records. Then there was Eric. Nathan discovered that his so-called entrepreneurial ventures were little more than a string of scams. Eric had defrauded clients, left projects half-finished, and been involved in a series of failed business partnerships. A quick search into public records revealed lawsuits piling up like unpaid bills. Nathan leaned back in his chair, a grim smile playing on his lips. They thought they'd outsmarted him, but all they'd done was hand him the ammunition he needed. The day Lauren walked into the office, expecting another routine morning, everything began to unravel. Nathan had anonymously tipped off the corporate compliance department at her company. Armed with documentation of her misuse of resources, the firm launched a swift investigation. Lauren's colleagues whispered behind her back, and meetings that once included her were now held without notice. By the end of the week, she was called into the boardroom and handed a termination letter. The fallout was immediate. Losing her job didn't just hurt Lauren financially. It shattered the perfect image she had worked so hard to cultivate. Worse still, the whispers followed her. Prospective employers were wary, and Lauren soon found herself blacklisted in the industry she had once dominated. Meanwhile, Nathan's silent war against Eric was gaining momentum. He reached out to one of Eric's many burned clients, anonymously funding the man's lawsuit. The legal case gained traction, dragging Eric's name into the mud. Within days, news of his fraudulent activities spread across social media, thanks to a carefully crafted dossier Nathan had leaked to a well-known journalist. Lauren and Eric's relationship, once paraded so boldly online, began to fracture under the weight of public scrutiny. Social media, which Lauren had once used to flaunt her lifestyle, turned against her. Comments on her posts shifted from admiration to scorn, with people calling out her betrayal and downfall. Eric, desperate to salvage what remained of his reputation, tried to distance himself from Lauren. But it was too late. His failed ventures and ongoing lawsuits made him toxic in the entrepreneurial circles he had once dominated. Nathan watched it all unfold from a distance, his satisfaction tempered by an unshakable calm. He wasn't acting out of rage anymore. This was about justice. Months later, Nathan's life had taken a turn for the better. His career was thriving, and he had reconnected with old friends who reminded him of the joy of genuine relationships. He had even started dating again, a woman named Clara, whose warmth and honesty were a stark contrast to Lauren's cold ambition. One quiet evening, Nathan received an unexpected email from Lauren. Her message was short, almost desperate. "Nate, I need to talk. Please, just once." Against his better judgment, he agreed to meet her. They chose a neutral location, a cafe on the outskirts of town. When Lauren walked in, Nathan barely recognized her. The confident, polished woman he had known was gone, replaced by someone frail and broken. "I lost everything," she admitted, her voice trembling. "My job, my reputation, even Eric. He left when things got hard. I don't know what to do." Nathan listened, his face impassive. When she asked for his help, he leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "You made your choices, Lauren. Now you're living with them. Don't ask me to clean up your mess." Her tears didn't move him. As he stood to leave, he felt nothing but relief. For the first time in years, Lauren was truly out of his life. The story of Lauren and Eric faded from Nathan's life, their downfall serving as a stark reminder of the price of betrayal. Nathan, on the other hand, focused on building something real with Clara. Their relationship was grounded in trust and mutual respect, qualities he now cherished above all else. One afternoon, as he sat with Clara in the sunlit living room of their new home, Nathan realized he had finally found peace. The scars from Lauren's betrayal were still there, but they no longer defined him. As for Lauren and Eric, karma had taken its course. Nathan didn't need to look back. Life with Clara was everything Nathan had once dreamed of, but had long since thought unattainable. She brought laughter back into his life, filling the silence with warmth and kindness. For the first time in years, Nathan felt that the weight of his past was lifting. Still, the ghosts of Lauren and Eric lingered at the edges of his mind. Though he had moved on emotionally, news of their continued downfall trickled in from time to time. A mutual acquaintance casually mentioned that Eric had fled the country to avoid mounting lawsuits, leaving Lauren stranded. It was poetic, Nathan thought, how the very man she had betrayed him for had left her to pick up the pieces. Nathan wasn't one to gloat openly, but the irony wasn't lost on him. It reminded him that life had a way of balancing the scales. One evening, as Nathan and Clara were preparing dinner, a letter arrived in the mail. It bore no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It was Lauren's. Nathan hesitated before opening it, curiosity battling with a sense of finality. Clara, sensing his unease, gave him a reassuring smile. "You don't have to read it if you don't want to," she said, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Nathan nodded, but opened it anyway. The contents were brief, but the words carried a weight he hadn't expected. "Nate, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm trying to be better. I've started therapy and am working on rebuilding my life. I owe you an apology, though I know it can't undo what I've done. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry." Nathan stared at the letter for a long moment before folding it and placing it in a drawer. It wasn't closure, exactly, but it felt like a step in the right direction. Clara was everything Lauren wasn't. Kind, supportive, and fiercely honest. She saw Nathan for who he was, scars and all, and loved him unconditionally. Their relationship was a partnership in the truest sense, built on mutual respect and trust. Nathan often marveled at how far he had come. The betrayal that had once consumed him now felt like a distant memory. With Clara, he had found not only love but also a renewed sense of purpose. Although Nathan had moved on, he couldn't resist delivering one last blow to Eric. Months earlier, he had stumbled upon evidence of a new scam Eric was running overseas. With a few emails to the right authorities, Nathan ensured that Eric's schemes would come to light. When the news broke of Eric's arrest, Nathan allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Nathan and Clara's life together flourished. They moved into a new home, one filled with light and laughter. Nathan found himself thriving at work, his renewed energy propelling him to new heights in his career. Clara, too, was finding success in her graphic design business, and the two of them often collaborated on projects, blending their skills in creative and fulfilling ways. Years later, Nathan crossed paths with Lauren by chance at a community event. She looked different, quieter, more subdued. They exchanged polite nods but didn't speak. It was a moment of closure Nathan hadn't realized he needed. As he walked away, hand in hand with Clara, he felt a profound sense of peace. His past no longer defined him. He had built something stronger, something real, and no betrayal could ever take that away. Nathan's story wasn't about revenge, though it had played its part. It was about resilience, about finding the strength to rebuild after being broken. In Clara, he had found the partner he had always deserved. And as they stood together, watching the sunset from their backyard, Nathan realized that he had not just survived, he had thrived. Lauren's apology letter had been an unexpected twist, but Nathan filed it away as just that, a twist in a story already closed. He didn't need her redemption, nor did he wish her further harm. It was enough to know that she was finally reckoning with her actions. Still, her presence lingered in the back of his mind, a reminder of the path he had walked to get here. One evening, as Clara worked on a new design project in their shared home office, Nathan found himself reflecting aloud. "Do you think people can truly change?" he asked, his tone contemplative. Clara looked up, her expression thoughtful. "I think they can, but only if they want to. Change isn't easy. It takes work, real work, and most people aren't willing to put in the effort." Nathan nodded, her words resonating. He had changed, hadn't he? The anger that had once driven him was gone, replaced by a quiet resolve to live a better life. He hoped Lauren could find her peace, though he knew her journey was no longer his concern. Nathan and Clara continued to thrive, their relationship deepening with each passing year. They took trips together, exploring places Nathan had once dreamed of visiting but never had the chance. One crisp autumn evening, Nathan proposed to Clara during a weekend getaway to the mountains. Her eyes filled with tears as she said yes. And for the first time in years, Nathan felt a pure, unbridled joy. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair attended by close friends and family. As they exchanged vows, Nathan couldn't help but marvel at how far he had come. The betrayal that had once threatened to destroy him now felt like a distant shadow, barely visible in the light of his new life. Years passed, and Nathan rarely thought of Lauren or Eric. That was until a chance encounter at a networking event brought her back into his orbit. She was working for a small nonprofit, a far cry from her high-powered marketing career. They exchanged pleasantries, and Nathan noticed the humility in her demeanor. She didn't try to explain herself or ask for anything. She simply acknowledged her mistakes with a quiet grace that surprised him. "Thank you for hearing me out," she said before leaving. "I hope you're happy, Nathan. You deserve to be." He watched her walk away, feeling nothing but peace. The chapter was finally closed for good this time. Eric's fate, however, was less graceful. The evidence Nathan had shared with the authorities had led to a series of international investigations. Reports of his fraudulent activities made headlines, and he was eventually arrested in a high-profile sting operation. Nathan learned of Eric's downfall through the news, but didn't dwell on it. Justice had taken its course, and he felt no need to involve himself further. Nathan and Clara's life together was rich with love and purpose. They celebrated milestones together, supported each other through challenges, and built a family filled with laughter and warmth. Nathan often reflected on his journey, not with regret, but with gratitude for the lessons he had learned. He had discovered his own strength and found a love that was worth fighting for. On a quiet summer evening, Nathan and Clara sat on their porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Their children played in the yard, their laughter carrying on the warm breeze. Nathan turned to Clara, a content smile on his face. "I never thought life could be this good," he said softly. She leaned into him, her eyes shining with love. "It's because you chose to make it good, Nate. You didn't let the past define you. You built this." As he held her close, Nathan knew she was right. His journey had been painful, but it had led him to this moment. A life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. The scars of betrayal were still there, faint reminders of the road he had traveled. But they no longer hurt. They were simply a part of his story, a story of resilience, redemption, and the power of choosing to move forward. And for Nathan, that was more than enough.